Welcome to Nifnex TV Perth. I am Zishan Pasha and I'm your host. Now, Nifnex TV is where small business challenges that you send in get addressed by an expert panel to help you grow your business. Now, the challenge or the case study that we've got in front of us now is coming from a firm in Perth, it is. Let me read it out for you. We are a business advisory firm, and we're looking at encouraging our staff to become more interactive with social media, especially Twitter. Because they're considering a group account. How do we ensure our staff use it in an appropriate and effective way? Now, what we're going to do is really cross to Shannon Bush from Creative Possibility from a leadership perspective to get her opinion from a leadership perspective, Douglas Lim from Alika, just from social media, how to use it to grow your business, and Dominic from william+hughes from a legal perspective, which is quite handy to know whether you're doing something right or wrong. So let's get into it. Dominic, Shannon and Doug, welcome. Welcome to Nifnex TV, and great to have you on the panel. You know the case study, but if you could give us a quick introduction of who you are and what perspective you're going to bring to this panel, let's get going.
Certainly. Well, I'm Dominic from william+hughes. We're based in West Perth. Do commercial litigation and we do commercial legal services. From a legal perspective, looking at social media, I mean, there's a number of issues. Some of them deal with control and some deal with what can go wrong, and that's generally what we all hear about, what's gone wrong in a particular situation. So probably one of the issues, and particularly with LinkedIn, say rather than Twitter, but it might be something that comes across to Twitter, is things like confidential information, the employer's confidential information. So for example, contact lists. So people will often have a work contact, and they'll have that person, they'll then be invited on their LinkedIn and then in effect become a personal contact, but it's through work. So then what happens with that employer then leaves and takes all these contacts with them, and particularly if they're then going to compete. So what an employer would want to ensure is that any sort of account that's set up, and that's whether it's LinkedIn or whether it's going to be a Facebook page that's tied into work, or whether it be Twitter, is the employer's account. So you want that set up through your employment contracts, and you want that set up in your employment policies as well, to ensure that the employer's always got control and can always grab that back from the employer, from the employee, if the employee takes it with them.
Before we go to the next point, should we get Shannon's introduction, and then we get back into the general conversation and discussion.
Thanks, Ishan. So I'm Shannon Bush from Creative Possibility. I'm a coach, consultant and trainer for the SME market, not just in Perth but globally. So I get to speak to some amazing business owners regularly. My great passion and specialty is personal leadership, so I'm going to be offering a leadership perspective on this case study. I think there's so much to talk about, so I know we've got just such a short space of time, but when it comes to leadership and a leadership team wanting to initiate any new initiative, to this one being the social media that we're talking about, I always go back to the philosophy of lead by example. So they need to be, firstly though, clear on what the vision is. What do they actually want to create? What are the goals and the, end outcomes for any new initiative? So being that social media is such a hot topic and we're all being told all over the place that we have to do it, absolutely. I think it's a bit of a minefield, but it can be very overwhelming and confusing for a lot of people. So the leadership team to firstly get an idea and get clear on what it is that they want to create, and then it's about stakeholder engagement. So getting their team and their staff on board so that they're part of that process to define the vision and implement it, definitely.
Now, Alika, man.
Yeah, so my name is Doug, and a couple of years ago I started and co-founded a web design online marketing agency based in Perth called Alika. So what we do is we help clients in the SME market, same as you, Shannon, sort of get a website presence. So we do a fantastic, sexy new design. But then you can have a website presence, but you also need people coming to your website. And that's where we get people finding you through search engine optimization or Google optimization. We also help our clients get to the top of Google through AdWords, through paid advertising, through Google. And then we also get people talking about our clients through brand awareness, through social media, which is what we'll talk about today. And then other marketing channels. So really excited to be here and add my 2 cents to the discussion.
A little more than that for sure.
Yeah, $2. That's good.
I guess the case study that we've got is the business advisory firm. They've got their staff wanting to use, or they want their staff using it, especially Twitter. So would love to sort of hear your opinion on what they can do and what they should do from social media angle, and how they can actually use that as a tool to get more business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love Twitter. I've grown my Twitter followers to about 12,500 at the moment. So I've been able to connect with people all around the world. And the great thing about Twitter is, unlike Facebook, you don't need to send a friend request. You can just simply follow someone. So it means that you've got a lot of thought leaders, like a lot of people that have written books, a lot of high business people, like Donald Trump, Robert Kiyosaki. They're all on Twitter. So it allows you to connect with these people. So I highly recommend all employees get on Twitter, but to have a governance policy regarding what you can and can't say about the company. Yeah. But I always think it's always good to have a personal Twitter account. So, and especially directors of a company, purely because you can set yourself as thought leaders, authorities in your niche, which then opens up the door for people to come and talk to you and say, hey, let's catch up for a coffee. So I highly recommend it.
I think one of the common themes that has come through is with Shannon's talking about, I think, the employer knowing where they're at and what they're wanting to get across, and talking about governance issues with Douglas. And look, that's essentially right. I think that it's critical that the employer first knows what they want to say, what they can say, what message they want to get across, what their place in the market is, and then make sure that then all the employees that are going to be using that form of social media know exactly where their employer wants to go and what the boundaries are for harassment, racial vilification, things like that. So, for example, I mean, everyone will be aware of the case in December last year with the PR employee. Can't remember what her name was off the top of my head, but about to jump on an international flight to South Africa and make a racial comment. A number of issues. I mean, that massive PR issue that fell out.
That's
right. And then obviously your employment was also terminated out of that as well. So that's just a good example where everyone needs to be on board, and also there needs to be a lot of control over the account. So there needs to be an administrator that's always seeing what's coming up as it's popping up. They can have access, that can suspend, delete accounts, make changes, make apologies, and so on.
It's almost like a full-time role monitoring this, isn't it?
It could be, definitely. You know, and I think that's almost irrelevant of the size of the organisation. It has the potential to have someone monitoring it. You said almost on a full-time basis, because social media is a 24/7 thing, isn't it?
So from a leadership perspective, how would you make your staff? I would say make your staff do it, but it is a teamwork, isn't it?
Definitely, and as I mentioned earlier, I think that there is a big stakeholder engagement opportunity here, and that being the internal stakeholders, so the employees, the broader group within the organisation. Part of that would be, I would like to think, discussions with the team about what it is that leadership team want to actually accomplish. And then training. I think training is really important, because if people know how to use something, any anxieties and fears will be taken away. Within that training, you could include all the governance stuff, so policies, procedures, whatever documentation needs to be shared. And also regular training, because social media, it changes all the time. Not just
every week.
Just about. It feels like daily sometimes with some things like Facebook.
That's right.
But people need to know what's happening and what the changes are, because that may have an impact on how they thought that they were doing the right thing, and end up meaning that they may make a mistake. And that then needs to be dealt with. So administration, regular administration, and I think too, someone being who's in that administration or leadership role, being able to act quickly if there is an issue. So
you would get people into a room, teach them how to do it, and then say, okay, go out and do it.
Yeah, I think give them a try and trust that they can do it. You've given them the information, make it so that they can ask questions. Sort of make it a real team, everybody. Team
is this more
effort.
social media in general, or Twitter itself that you're suggesting?
I think social media in general. I don't know if what you.
Oh, absolutely. I think I totally agree. Actually, like we want to train our staff, train your staff to all be on the same page. Because the other thing is, if everyone goes on Twitter and starts writing about different things, you have different messaging that's coming through about your brand, about your business. So everyone's got to be on the same page and communicating that same message
Yeah.
And it's across the board, not just Twitter.
Mm.
All across on all the different social media channels. And just on what Dominic said as well, like a very good point, because what we do with our clients is we do ensure that there is one account that controls everything. We don't allow one account, one of our staff to own, say, one of our clients' accounts, because if that staff member leaves, they can pretty much take away that database or that contact list, especially on LinkedIn. So it's a good point that Dominic made earlier.
From a Facebook perspective, would you have a lot of administrators within your staff, running Facebook page?
Yeah, well, we have one profile, and that profile has access to each of our Facebook accounts. But having said that though, each of the Facebook pages that we run for our clients, you can add administrators, but there's got to be at least one central administrator account. Also from an audit perspective, to know what people have done. So yeah, that's how we set it up.
Now, late last year I was looking at getting a kitchen benchtop installed, and had the problems that people often have with tradies, and ended up getting quite upset with them. But so I noticed that they had a Facebook page. They couldn't get any sensible response out of them on the phone, so I put a comment, and it was a very measured comment, but a complaint. But within about half an hour, the complaint was gone. So I thought that was a bit cheeky. So I posted it back up again, and within sort of 5 to 10 minutes, it was gone. So as annoying as that was for me, what it did point out to me, I thought that was excellent social media control.
Okay.
Someone there was monitoring it, bang, saw something went up, didn't like it, able to remove it, get rid of it straight away, so that their Facebook profile was what they wanted it to be, which was predominantly all the positive stuff that they put up, and plus customers that were happy with their work. So that's a good example of what you should be doing if you're going to be using social media. Now, perhaps I should have sent a private message to me or something like that to alleviate my concerns, but at least as far as the public face is concerned, they've done a very good job.
So it's that quick response, isn't it, to manage what's coming through and to be aware of what's coming through.
That's right.
It's scary for some, if you're not actually monitoring it.
Which I think a lot of business pages are not monitored. They might have scheduled posts go up regularly on Facebook, if we're talking about that, for example, or even all the other social media platforms use ways and tools and means of regularly posting information. But if someone's not going on there to engage in a conversation, use the social part of it, and monitor what's going on, it's just content being shared.
So from a management perspective, would you say having a virtual, I think the VAs are getting very popular these days. We have virtual assistants offshore who are monitoring social media, and it's more cost effective, so to say. But is that a good solution for businesses to have?
It can be. I have a VA and have worked with VAs since I have been full-time in my business, about 4 years now. And I find them a godsend in terms of, if I'm training for a full day, or if I'm with client appointments back to back, I'm not checking social media. But they will monitor things, let me know if there's something I need to follow up on, and there's certain things that I let, under measured control, I guess, in some ways. They have parameters as to what they can comment on or share or let me know about and what to post.
The only thing that jumps out at me just before you move on, just this comment about having people perhaps offshore or somewhere else, is just control again of your intellectual property.
Yes.
It's a bit like the issue that we're having with cloud computing. You might have all of your information getting stored in a cloud somewhere in the US or overseas, and then what happens with their own sort of regulatory issues? Are you going to be able to get any of that information back if need be? So it's just something to watch, I suppose.
Definitely.
Sorry, Kate.
I can't remember the question I had.
It's about VAs. I think it's good. We personally don't, purely because probably because of the colloquial Australian English for our clients. But that, like I said, that ties back into the branding behind the business. But I think on a personal level, if you're running your own business, why not leverage your time? They have their place.
So going back to the case study, if you've got 5 or 6 staff working for you, it's for Twitter point of view, it's good to get the staff and have a company account or a Twitter account. For LinkedIn, is there a company account, or that people can sort of put that in there, put posts up on behalf of?
Yeah, you can have a company business page on LinkedIn.
But people who are putting up posts, could be anyone, any of the staff as well?
Yeah, so when you set up a LinkedIn business page, you add admins to your
Yeah.
page that can administrate that page, that can post on behalf of your business.
Yeah.
But we still create a pseudo LinkedIn profile, because though we add each of our staff members that can administer that page, you just
Yeah.
don't know if they leave.
Mm.
So that's why I leave.
To have that
pseudo
safety
profile.
then for the governance and
Yeah.
having that, you know, key administrator account.
So it's almost like a master administrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I saw, this is probably for Dominic, I saw, I was reading the news a while ago, and there was like 4 staff at a company that what they did was they were preparing to be a competitor to that company, and they went on LinkedIn and then they took the LinkedIn accounts with them, and so the company sued them, and the court ruled in favour of that company, saying that LinkedIn account did belong to the employer.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting.
It's a piece of intellectual
Yeah.
property,
Yes.
so but you want to try and avoid that dispute and avoid the damage. So if you've got proper contracts in place with your employees that say that this is our property and follow it up with your policies, then what you can do if you hear that someone's going to leave or someone has left, and if they are looking at taking that information with them, you can even seek injunctive relief to try and stop it before too much damage is done. So absolutely, with Twitter, I'm not sure if that might be a bit harder. There hasn't really been a lot of legal discourse about Twitter. Things in the law tend to take quite a while, and we don't have the legal regulation. There's no sort of statutory laws in place that deal with Twitter. I mean, there might be some issues with privacy policies, the government privacy policies that are coming in,
Yeah.
but that's very much, I think, at this stage very similar to email. So, for example, if you're going to send a tweet out, maybe you might have to be careful that if it's directed at one person, that other people can't see who your other addressees might be, or something like that, similar to email, I suppose.
Okay. I guess it's almost time to start wrapping it up, because we've moved on pretty quickly with this one. But okay, Dominic, do you have like a quick tip on what people should do or shouldn't do, or should get staff involved or shouldn't get staff involved with social media?
I think it's something that staff need to be involved in because social media is just getting bigger and bigger as a means of communication. There needs to be an understanding as to where the business wants to go with its social media, and then that needs to be taught to all of the staff. And then the third major issue is control. Control over the social media site as a piece of intellectual property, and control over what information is being put up there. They're probably the 3 main comments that I would say by way of summary.
From a leadership perspective.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with everything Dominic just said, because they're definitely the key points that I had in thinking about it from a leadership perspective and how you want to engage your team, and but certainly it starts with that visioning beforehand, the leadership team knowing what they want to achieve, then getting the team involved. But I think the other part too, from a leadership perspective, is not to be afraid to have a go with social media and to engage someone like Dominic, for example, opposite Dominic, Douglas, for example, with people that actually use social media. It's part of what they do, their specialty area. Refer to people that actually know how to use social media to their advantage, and also considering someone like Dominic, or so that you're getting all those things covered, and you know that you're going into it to give it the best chance to get the best outcome.
That's good, Jen. Yeah, just my tip would be for talking to business owners, and especially directors of businesses and companies. You have to really beef up your LinkedIn profile. The amount of times I've seen potential clients go onto my LinkedIn profile, check me out, have a look at what I'm about, and then subsequent opportunities to get business from that. And also just to connect with people all around Perth, all around Australia. Highly recommend it. Beef it up. Endorsements, put in what you guys actually do, a really good description, and just really beef it up. So I highly recommend that.
Fabulous. Anything that you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it.
So we all say get your staff involved and make sure that we've got the bases covered legally, and get the leadership, have a go, and get it going. Is that what you said?
Directors, and business owners, get on
That's
LinkedIn,
it.
start using it to network.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ishan.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was a great discussion, wasn't it? Thank you to the panel for their time and also for sharing their knowledge and expertise with us. If you're a small business owner and you've got challenges that you're facing in business, send them in to us and we'll get that addressed by a expert panel. Like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, watch the other case studies we put up, pick up a paper from 150 locations in Perth, and again, come along to our networking events that we run. I always say, when the right people come together, magic happens. See you next time.